golden haze in the meadow. Our people, there's a bright golden haze in the meadow. The cone is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Well, I say, oh, what a beautiful morning. Yeah. Yes, what a wonderful day. Y'all look out there now. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything going my way. Y'all come on now. Oh, the cattle are standing like statues. The cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. She said, oh, what a beautiful morning. Yeah. Well, what a wonderful day. I want y'all to know, I've got a beautiful feeling. I've got everything. And everything going my way. Everything going my way, my way. All right, y'all do it to me now. The sounds of the earth are like music. The sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is as busy, it don't miss a tree. And a little old weeping willow is laughing at me. She said, oh, what a beautiful morning. What a wonderful day. Y'all, I got a beautiful feeling. I got everything. I got everything. I got everything. Woo! Everything's going my way. I'm sorry, but I got everything going my way. My way. Baby. Oh, baby. I want to thank you, little girl, for such a wonderful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. I want to welcome each and every one of you to the Namaqua Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Laurel Liefert, and I serve as the minister of this justice-loving, warm, welcoming, bold, bright, and beautiful community of seekers. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. And Namaqua is a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And we are a congregation of open minds, loving hearts, helping hands, gutsy creativity, and feet that walk our talk. So I don't know if we have any first-time visitors or people who are still relatively new here. If you're with us and you would please raise your hand, put your name in the chat box, we will give you a special warm welcome. And also, if you're interested in receiving our weekly emails, and pretty soon we'll have our October newsletter, please put your email so that we can put you on our list. And so this is a special Sunday because it is such a beautiful morning. And I am so glad that we have Lauren Daley with us today. She hasn't been around. She's one of Max's moms. And so Lauren, as our worship associate today, will do the chalice lighting words.
Wind that whispers through the willow trees, sun that sustains us, water that washes over willing earth and weathered stones, a smile shared and savored, a child's squeal of delight as she dances in the daisies and daffodils, the quiet joy of gathered community. This is the spirit of life and love that we call forth now into this gathering. May this spirit infuse our hearts, fill our souls, and carry us forward like a wave on the ocean as we enter now into this sacred time and space. Come, let us worship together. And now please stay muted, but join me in the congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for the springing, fresh from the womb. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the womb.
I love to see the music by those young people. I now invite you to just sit back, get comfortable. Maybe put your feet on the floor. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. It's time to fully arrive in this sacred place that is made sacred by our presence together. And I'd like to read a poem by Parker Palmer called Grand Canyon. And then I'll ring a bell and invite you into a few minutes, not literally, some time of silence. And then I'll ring another bell when it's time to come back, and then I will tell you a story. Grand Canyon by Parker Palmer. They say the layered earth rose up, ancient rock leviathan, trailing ages in its wake, lifting earth mass toward the sun, and coursing water cut the rock away to leave these many-storied walls. Expose of ages gone around this breathless emptiness, more wondrous far than earth had ever known. My life has risen layered too. Each day, each year in turn has left its fossil life and sediments, evidence of lived and unlived hours, the tedium, the anguish, yes, the joy that some heart deep vitality keeps pressing upward toward the day I die. And spirit cuts like water through it all, carving out this emptiness so the inner eye can see the soaring height of canyon walls within walls whose very color, texture, form, redeem in beauty all my life has been. The darkness and the light, the false, the true, while deep below the living waters run, cutting deeper through my parts to resurrect my grave-bound heart, making, always making all things new. Our ministerial intern, Claire, who's so good at reading stories, is in New York this weekend doing a wedding. And so I today will present you with a book called The Blue Songbird. It's by Vern Kowski. Once there lived a blue songbird. Every morning she would wake up hopped to the edge of a high branch and listened to her sister's lovely songs. The songbird always tried to join in with them, but she could never sing like they could sing. I'm not like my older sisters, said the songbird to her mother. It seems there are no songs for me. My dearest one, replied her mother, not just any notes will do. You must go and find a special song that only you can sing. So the songbird left her mother, left her nest and all she knew, and flew off to find her special song. When she reached a far-off land, she saw a giant bird, unlike any she'd ever seen before. The songbird landed and began to chirp. Excuse me, Mr. Long-necked bird, in your travels, have you heard a very special thing, a song that only I can sing? The bird stretched his slender neck down low to where the songbird stood. Whoop, my name is Crane, whooped the bird, and I'm sorry, whoop, that I can't help you. But see those mountains over there? Beyond them lives the wisest bird. If anyone knows where to find the answer, whoop, I'm sure it will be him. The songbird kindly thanked the crane, then flew off to continue her quest. She soared over the mountain peaks and dove down into a deep valley until she reached a dark pine forest. Here she found a bird who looked old and very wise. Hello, Mr. Wise Old Bird. In your long life, you must have heard of a very special thing, a song that only I can sing. Oh, I am an owl, hooted the bird. Who are you looking for? No, not who, answered the songbird. I'm searching for a song. But the owl only cocked his head. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This must not be the wise bird after all, thought the songbird. Still, she thanked him kindly and then flew off once more to continue her quest. The songbird crossed rivers and valleys, cities and oceans. All along the way, she always asked where she might find her song. But no bird ever had the answer. One windy winter day, she met a bird who looked a little bit mean and more than a little bit hungry. Even so, the songbird bravely chirped. But please don't eat me, Mr. Scary Bird. I just wondered if you'd ever heard of a very special thing, a song only I can sing. Ah, call me Crow. And I have heard of such a thing. Across the sea, there is an island, golden as the sun and filled with the most enchanting music. Fly west as far as you can, and there you will find the song you seek. The songbird kissed the clever crow, then set out to cross the sea. She flew through storm and wind, through the night and day, until she was more tired than she had ever been. But the songbird did not rest, for she knew that soon she'd find her special song. And then she saw the island, glowing like a jewel on the horizon. In the distance, she could hear the sound of beautiful music. At last I made it, laughed the songbird, and suddenly her wings felt strong again. She swooped down faster and faster, following the sound, until she found that after all this time, she was home. The songbird's heart fell. She had circled the whole world, spoken to every bird there was, but her quest had failed. Then she saw her mother and all her disappointment disappeared. She had so many stories to tell, but when the songbird opened her beak to tell them, what came out was not words at all, but a song. She sang a song of crane and owl and of the clever crow, of cities and of storm seas and mountains capped with snow, of all the warm and sunny days and the chilly nights alone. And of the love the songbird felt for her family and her home. The end. So now we are home with one another, home in our beloved community. And so I would like to invite anyone who has a personal joy or sorrow to put your name in the chat, and I'll call on you or perhaps raise your hand so that we can share the stories of one another's lives. So would anybody like to share? Susan Moody, unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Fran Green, my dear friend and all of our friends, all of us know her sweetness. She fell on Thursday and couldn't get up. She was walking one of her two dogs and she fell on her stomach and her hands were below her and she has injured her hands. She was picked up and taken by
A neighbor.
AMSA, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
MCR. And I didn't, she called me on Friday. I think she just fell asleep when she got to the hospital and all of that. She's been moved up to the trauma unit on the 4th floor and she seems to be okay. She's going to go home either today or tomorrow, I believe. I haven't talked with her today. And she will have to have an operation in her neck related to her problem with her hands. So if you'd all keep her in your Unitarian prayers and think about her. She can only have 2 visitors a day because of COVID rules, and Bob will be one of them. And so it might be best to wait until she gets home to visit. But anyway, that's all the news I have. I'll keep you updated, but she's in my heart right now, and I'm sure in all of yours.
Yes. And we have a new tradition that was brought to our community by our intern, Claire. And so after each sharing, we will do, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. So we'll do that for Fran and for you, Susan, as our messenger. We hear you, we hold you, we care for you. And Janet Gillette, unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My youngest daughter, my babyest baby, will be 48 tomorrow. And my eldest granddaughter will be 26 on Friday. And then we're going to celebrate birthdays this weekend because, that weekend, because we're going to Denver. All 3 of us are going to see Randy Rainbow on Saturday. And then on Monday, we're seeing the Doobie Brothers.
Wow.
It's all pretty exciting. And meanwhile, I got my 3rd shot, my 3rd Moderna. A number of us did. I know Vicki was scheduled to, I don't remember who all else, but I've just got some mild aches and pains and nothing, it's not as bad as the 2nd shot was. So I'm glad I've got it. So yeah, so I'm happy.
So happy birthdays all around
Mm-hmm.
to Janet and your daughter and granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
We hear you, we hold you, We care for you. And Lauren.
It's a real joy seeing all of you this morning, all of your faces, and it's lovely being here. And I also have a joy in that I was able to purchase a home in Loveland. It's on Van Buren, and I'm very excited and very grateful. Thank you.
That's great. Congratulations, Lauren. We hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. Sally Henry.
I bring message from Kathy Hartman, who is recovering well, though a little slowly from her knee surgery. She's had a tremendous amount of help from mostly, or many folks in Namaqua, for which she's very grateful. Also, some of her other friends have been there helping her all along. So she just says, thank you, thank you, thank you. And she also says that she's really had been a little overwhelmed by visitors. So please call her for the time being rather than stopping by and actually seeing her.
Thank you, Sally. And we send out to Kathy and to you as her messenger that we hear you, we hold you, we care for you. Jennifer Buckmeyer.
Yeah, I have a joy. My daughter Rachel, who swore that she was never going to be a nurse, has now graduated her BSN program at UW and passed her boards last week. So she's all official now.
Well, that's really wonderful, Jen. Tell Rachel that we hear her, we hold her, we care for her, and we're proud of her too. And Jennifer Klein.
I think a lot of you have been members for a while will remember Sally Blanchard. She's been having a pretty tough time, and she just came down with a breakthrough COVID case last week and is not doing great. She was being so careful and all, but then she went to lunch with a friend, and she's pretty sure that's what happened. She'd been masking and doing everything, hardly going anywhere. She's got a lot of challenges in her life, but right now, if you remember her, you know, give her a call or send her an email or something, just keep her spirits up. So I'm taking her, I'm checking on her every day to make sure she's doing okay. So.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, for letting us know. So Sally Blanchard, and through you, we hear you, we hold you, we care for you. And Marcia, do you want me to just read this? Marcia Lewis, John, her husband and grandson Oliver will celebrate their birthdays this week at a German restaurant in Colorado Springs. Oliver will be 2 and John is slightly older. Well, tell John and Oliver happy birthday. We hear you, we hold you, we care for you. And Vicki Clark, celebrating finally the successful move of their son Jeffrey into his Denver loft this past week. His ad is out and he has his first massage client booked Monday evening. Woohoo! All right, so Vicki, tell your son, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. And you too, Vicki, his mom, and Tom, his dad. Oh, Jim and Linda, tell us what your joy is. Jim and Linda Danforth.
Well, we have a big joy in our family. So our son Kyle and his beautiful Suki, his wife, had a beautiful our granddaughter, their daughter on June 10th. And her name is Asha, which means hope in Punjabi. And her middle name is Kaur, which is given to all of the Sikh women, and it means warrior. And so little Asha Kaur Danforth is with us, and they're beautiful down in Denver. So happy she's here safely.
That's so great. Congratulations. You are rich in grandchildren.
Yes.
So for Linda and Jim and for Asha Kaur and her proud parents, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. Well, if there's no one else who wants to speak out loud, let us send our caring to people who may even be here and have something too tender to share out loud, and also to our world that is filled with magnificent beauty and also incredible suffering. And so for all of those, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. And for our musical response, enjoy a Bach cello suite. And if you would please repeat after me, in our joy and in our sorrow,
In our joy and in our sorrow,
we are not alone.
we are not alone.
And Mim wants to add that we thank Sally Henry for rallying support and assistance for both Marie Steen and Kathy Hartman, and to send healing thoughts to Marie and Kathy. So Sally is our faithful pastoral care chair and does an incredible job coordinating the care that we have in this community for one another. And now Lauren has a reading by Wendell Berry.
When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound and fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
Thanks, Lauren. And our offering today, which we will collect either with the donate button, or you can always send a check or something into the church, is going to be split this quarter between the congregation and the Martin Luther King Jr. Loveland events. And so please be generous and enjoy, while you're donating, a song that I think will be familiar to all of you. Oh, no, not this. Wait, Sarah, that's the wrong one. I mean, yeah. So Sarah's our Zoomer today. Thank you. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings, to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice as together we work to grow beloved community. So as you listened to the instrumental version of America the Beautiful, how many of you, like me, were filling in the words The music was composed by Samuel Ward, but the words were written by Catherine Lee Bates, who was an English professor at Wellesley College in Massachusetts. In 1893, Bates took a train trip to Colorado Springs to teach summer school. And on the way, she passed the wheat fields of Kansas. And then later, she was standing on top of one of the most famous mountains in the United States, in our very own Colorado, Pikes Peak. And if you've been there, you can imagine the magnificent view that she got. And it was there that the words of the poem began forming in her mind. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. And the song was so popular that it almost became our national anthem. But then in 1913, instead, Congress chose the Star-Spangled Banner. And personally, and I saw some of you, Norma, Janet, probably many of us, wish that Congress had chosen America the Beautiful to be our national anthem. I prefer the imagery of beauty to the imagery of war, and it's actually a lot easier to sing. And then I became even fonder of it when I found out that Catherine Lee Bates was a Christian socialist, an ally of labor unions, a fierce foe of imperialism, a feminist, and a lesbian. And in fact, Boston.com called her a gay feminist badass. Well, when Trump took office, while the Mormon Tabernacle Choir sang America the Beautiful, I could just imagine Catherine Lee Bates turning in her grave. But like all of us, even though she was a gay feminist badass, she was a product of her time. And so this morning, I want to invite us to do some reflection and some deconstruction. Do any of you recognize this spoon? The Oakland Unitarian Church gave this spoon to our interim minister, Robert Latham, at the end of his 2 years, because he stirred things up so much and did such a great job. And then when Robert preached at my installation, when I became Namakwa's minister, Robert gave it back to me. And he said, your job as a minister is to comfort the afflicted, but sometimes you need to afflict the comfortable. And by the way, Robert is coming to preach for us in October. And he will also stay and be a participant and kind of a facilitator during our fall congregational meeting that will be on October 24th. So let us begin. First, let me ask, what was your response to all those American flags that were flying? I thought of Janan Wright's sermon on 4th of July, just this last July, when she described hanging an American flag outside, and her neighbor was surprised and said, I thought you were a liberal. So only conservatives can hang the flag? So how do you feel about the American flag? Do you feel patriotic and proud? Do you feel ashamed of what is done in our name? Maybe a bit ambivalent? And I think that for Unitarian Universalists, it's complicated. You remember a story I told after I had attended a conference on restorative justice. And in one of the workshops, we were asked, what is the first thing you do when you get up in the morning? And so people said things like, well, I go to the bathroom, I walk my dog, I make coffee. But the person who asked the question was a Native American, and he said, the first thing you do when you get out of bed is you step on stolen land. History, I think we know, tends to be written by the winners. But perhaps some of you read Howard Zinn's book, People's History of the United States, where he tells history from the perspective of the losers, the groups who have been eradicated, enslaved, persecuted, marginalized by mainstream American society. America the Beautiful. So now let's look at some of the words in that first verse. So did any of you ever feel comfortable with that line, God shed his grace on thee? I think we know that not all Americans even believe in God. And even if they do, God wouldn't necessarily be a he. God shed his grace. And I think what bothers me the most about God shedding his grace on America is how time and time again, claiming God on your side has been used to justify war and killing. So how about the phrase, crown thy good with brotherhood? So I bet that many of you notice the term brotherhood and may wonder, well, what about sisterhood? The terms brother and sister, male and female, are what we call binary, meaning either or. You're either a male or a female, a brother or a sister. But you know, one of the characteristics of a liberal religion like Unitarian Universalism is being open to change, being responsive to science, to arts, to other cultural sources in our time. And our theology as a denomination and also as individuals evolves with our experience. And in this 21st century, we're learning to understand that gender is more fluid than the binary of the either or of male or female. And so Unitarian Universalism has been working hard to be gender neutral and inclusive. So that's why we offer and respect people's chosen pronouns, like she, her, and hers, or they, them, and theirs. Some of you old timers may remember when Namakwa was doing the work to become designated a Unitarian Universalist Association LGBTQ+ welcoming congregation. Do you remember that time? And one of the challenges that we wrestled with was the use of the binary words, brother and sister, in what was then our traditional and much loved closing song called Safe Passage. Safe passage on your way, brother, safe passage on your way, sister. It was painful and it was controversial. So do we have to give up singing songs that were written at a time when the language used was not as enlightened as we are now? You know, we say that Namakwa is a UU congregation of open minds, and we really, really, really try to walk our talk. So what does all this have to do with today's service about beauty? My colleague, have I been muted this whole time? Or I just did, whew. So Sean writes, the ability to see beauty is the beginning of our moral sensibility. What we believe is beautiful, we will not wantonly destroy. And then another colleague of mine, Mary Catherine Morn, writes, beauty does more than awaken us. It also admonishes us. It demands something. We are here so that together we might heed the admonitions of beauty, answer its call to create, protect, and preserve. And when I look back at my life, I realize that it was the admonitions of beauty that inspired me to go into law school in the first place, way back in my 20s. Because after 5 years of living and working in one of our most beautiful national parks, Yosemite, I felt called to protect and preserve that beauty by becoming an environmental lawyer. But my idealistic zeal to protect trees and to keep rivers wild was undermined by my experience. Early on, I was involved in a contentious dispute over the quality of water, and I went into a hearing in San Francisco believing that building dams or levees along the rivers coming out of the Sierras would destroy them. Then during the hearing, I heard stories of the farmers and the families who lived along the Delta, some for generations. And they wanted and needed to have dams and levees built to irrigate their crops, for flood control, to generate power. And as I listened, I found myself moved by their stories and seeing things from their perspective. I think we all know that stories are powerful. Our experiences shape us. They carve us out. They create the layers of our lives the way that Parker Palmer wrote about in his poem about the Grand Canyon. And I think one of the most important things that we do here in our congregation is to share our stories. Remember, we're under an imaginary story tree every Sunday, and in our small groups and in our social gatherings. So we share our stories, we sing them like the blue songbird, and then we listen to each other intently and lovingly like the mother of the bird. So as I listened to the stories of the farmers in that hearing, my binary black and white world of right and wrong melted, becoming fluid and complex, shifting into shades of gray. And this was one of my first inklings that perhaps empathy is not a good quality for a trial lawyer. So then years later, when I started attending a UU church with my family, I fell in love with this faith. And I felt called to a different kind of beauty, the beauty of a beloved community, one in which people have inherent worth and dignity, where we practice deep listening so that all voices and perspectives can be heard and respected, where we realize that we are tied in a single garment of destiny, interdependent and deeply connected. At its best, I see how these values are part of the noble experiment of American democracy, of America the Beautiful. In the preamble to the Constitution, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. But we know, like all things human, America is far from perfect. My chosen faith of Unitarian Universalism is far from perfect. I, your ever-loving minister, am far from perfect, and I think maybe you are too, because we're all human. And yet being part of this faith, and why I've given my life to it, is because it has called me to be my best self. It calls me to continue to lean into my discomfort as I grow to understand and respect perspectives other than my own. It's helped me realize that my experience has been as a privileged, white, cisgender, educated, middle-class lesbian woman. And in our UU community, I want us to know what each of us is, where we come from, our experience, to know the personal stories, our pieces of truth. Parker Palmer wrote, "I still believe that there is ground under our feet and that we can walk it, but we have to walk it together and keep saying in the face of all our screw-ups, welcome to the human race." And as I come to the end of my sermon, bringing it way down to personal, to vulnerable, to real, I know that many of us, perhaps all of us, experience moments in which we feel ignorant, confused, lost, afraid, when we have felt less than worthy, less than whole, less than beautiful. But here at Namakwa, I invite you to help us grow a beloved community where we truly and sincerely affirm the worth and dignity of all, of each of us as unique, perfectly imperfect human beings. A beloved community in which each of us knows in our bones and believes that we are beautiful. So do I love you because you're beautiful, Or are you beautiful because I love you? Both and so may it be so. That was the Sacramento Gay Men's Choir. And so now, Lauren, if you want to read the words, I'll extinguish our chalice.
Beauty is before me, and beauty is behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it. And in old age, I shall walk quietly in the beautiful trail. In beauty, it is begun. In beauty, it is ended.
As part of this beloved community, may we learn to put away the pressures of the world that ask us to perform, to take up masks, to put on brave fronts. May we learn to silence the voices that ask us to be perfect. This is a community of compassion and welcoming. You do not have to do anything to earn the love contained in these walls. You do not have to be braver, smarter, stronger, better than you are in this moment to belong here with us. You only have to bring the gift of your body, no matter how able, your seeking mind, no matter how busy, your animal heart, no matter how broken. Bring all that you are and all that you love, and know that you are beautiful. So what we have coming up in this next week, for one thing, I now am trying to put on the calendar my office hours. So on Tuesday from 1 to 3 and Wednesday from noon to 2, if you'd like to either meet on Zoom or perhaps even come into my office where I am right now and have a mask, email me and we can arrange that. Or if those times don't suit your schedule, let me know and see if we can find another time. Also, this Thursday is our meditation class with Susan and Janin. Remember, now we're alternating social sisterhood one week, which was last week, and now this coming week, it'll be meditation again. And then Saturday, your leaders, your elected leaders, and Janin and me, your staff, will meet at Kathy's outdoors for what's called a summit, where we will educate ourselves a little bit about interim ministry and the path that lays ahead, and also go over our covenant and the goals of the 3 elected groups of the board, Committee on Shared Ministry and Leader Development. And then the love notes that some of you wrote last Sunday at a absolutely wonderful service that was in the park. We will read those love notes and take them into account as we move into our fall congregational meeting, and they will inform the goals that we'll be striving to achieve this church year. So wasn't that water communion great? You know, afterwards, I have a weekly talk with our intern, Claire, and he said, you know, you've been telling me what a great group of people this is, and I'm just starting to know it more and more every week. And I think what impressed him is, for those of you who weren't there, we had some adversity, which is it was a water communion, but we didn't mean it should rain. So instead of being spread out on the lawn in lawn chairs, we were just huddled together, most of us in this shelter. And the shelter had all these wasps. And so I think that there were probably about a half a dozen people who were there who got bit by the wasps. And what Claire said is, what a resilient group of people. People didn't complain about the rain. They didn't even complain about being stung by the wasps. They were just so happy to be together. And that is quintessential Namakwa. And so next Sunday, Claire will be back, and it is Claire and one of our seasoned worship associates, Vicki Clark, who we haven't seen in a service for a while, who will be presenting a service called Milo Imagines the World. And so we will be on Zoom for a while longer. Safety is our priority, but we hope that we will be back together in person again as soon as we can. And so thank you all for coming today. And now, Sarah Suriani, thank you for being our Zoomer. If you'll now please send us into our breakout room so that we can chat with each other in our virtual coffee hour.